For a man who spent more than 60 years in the spotlight of the Grand Ole Opry, a man who has graced countless stages and lived at the very center of country music, you'd think the greatest risks were on a dark highway or in a sold-out arena. But for 87-year-old icon Bill Anderson, a devastating freak accident happened in the one place he should have been safest, his own home. This is the story of the excruciating injury that abruptly forced him off the stage, silenced his voice at the world's most famous country venue, and left his celebrated 6-decade career on a sudden, unexpected pause. Before we get into the harrowing details of what happened, you have to understand the titan who took the fall. To feel the weight of his absence, you have to appreciate the sheer magnitude of his presence. Who is Bill Anderson? To some, he's a voice that defined an era of country music. To others, he's the man who wrote the soundtrack to their lives. And to the Grand Ole Opry, he's its longest-serving, most dedicated member, a living monument to the history and soul of country music. To really get why Bill Anderson's sudden turn of events sent such a shockwave, you have to go back to the beginning of a career that's as influential as any in American music. Born James William Anderson III on November 1, 1937, in Columbia, South Carolina, his journey wasn't some overnight success story. It was a slow, steady climb built on raw talent, a relentless work ethic, and an almost spooky ability to capture real life in a 3-minute song. His family moved to Georgia, and it was there that a young Bill Anderson started to dream. Fired up by pioneers like Hank Williams, he bought a cheap guitar with money from a paper route. The strings felt like they were an inch off the fretboard. By the time he was just 10, he'd already written his first song, Carry Me to My Texas home, even though he'd never been west of his own town in Georgia. That little spark was a sign of the massive talent just waiting to break out. While he was studying journalism at the University of Georgia, Anderson's love for music found a home on the radio. He worked as a DJ, which not only paid his bills, but let him soak in the sounds of the time. It wasn't always smooth sailing. One rock and roll station famously fired him for playing country music. But he landed on his feet at another station in Commerce, Georgia, that loved his country roots. It was there, on the roof of a small hotel, that the 19-year-old would sit with his guitar. One night, looking at the town's few blinking lights, he imagined a giant, heartbreaking city and wrote the line, "A bright array of city lights as far as I can see." That song, City Lights, became his golden ticket. The legendary Ray Price recorded it in 1958, and it shot to #1 for an incredible 13 weeks straight. The success didn't just put Bill on the map. It drew the map right to Nashville. He signed with Decca Records and started a career as both a singer and a songwriter, a path he walked with incredible success for 6 decades. It was during this time he developed his unique vocal style, a soft, breathy, almost conversational delivery. It was intimate and captivating. A comedian named Don Oman saw him on a TV show and was the first to call him Whisperin Bill. Anderson later admitted he hated it at first, thinking people were making fun of him. But he quickly realized it was a gift. It set him apart and became a brand born from just being himself. As an artist, Whisperin Bill churned out hits. Songs like Po Folks, 8x10, and his first #1, Mama Sang a Song, made him the voice of the common person. Mama Sang a Song, a tribute to a mother rich in love but not money, topped the charts for 7 weeks. Then in 1963, Still became a crossover smash, a heartbreaking monologue about a love that won't fade. It didn't just conquer the country charts. It climbed the pop charts and made him a national star. But if you only talk about his singing, you're only telling half the story. You could argue that Bill Anderson's greatest legacy is the songs he wrote for other people. He practically discovered Connie Smith at a talent show, guided her to Nashville, and gave her a song he'd written called Once a Day. It launched her career into the stratosphere in 1964. He wrote for a staggering list of artists, from country titans like Conway Twitty to musical royalty like James Brown and Aretha Franklin. And that success wasn't stuck in the past. After a quieter period in the 80s, Anderson staged one of the most amazing comebacks in Nashville history. He started co-writing with a new generation of artists and ended up with some of the biggest hits of his career. He co-wrote Whiskey Lullaby, the haunting 2005 duet for Brad Paisley and Alison Krauss that won the CMA for Song of the Year. He did it again just 2 years later, winning Song of the Year from both the CMA and ACM for Give It Away, a modern classic he wrote for George Strait. Through it all, one thing remained his anchor: the Grand Ole Opry. Inducted on July 15, 1961, at just 23 years old, he became a pillar of the institution. In July 2025, he celebrated his 64th anniversary as an Opry member, making him the longest-serving member in its history. Opry Vice President Dan Rogers put it perfectly. Bill Anderson has made an indelible mark. He has continued to be a bridge between new and legacy artists for 64 years now. For Bill, the Opry wasn't just a stage, it was home. Missing a show was unthinkable. He's in the Country Music Hall of Fame, the National Songwriters Hall of Fame, and has been named Songwriter of the Year 6 times. He's a man who has survived the changing tides of the music industry for over 60 years. But in mid-August of 2025, this unstoppable force was brought to a grinding halt by a single misstep in the quiet of his own bedroom. The day the music stopped for Whisperin Bill wasn't on some grand stage. It was just an ordinary day winding down at home. In mid-August 2025, only weeks after celebrating his record-breaking 64th Opry anniversary, the unthinkable happened. As he was trying to get into bed, a simple, everyday act, a sudden twist, sent a shock of white-hot agony through his leg. In his own words, it was a freak accident. He said he twisted or tore some ligaments or muscles in the back of his left leg, and the pain was immediate and overwhelming. The 87-year-old legend fell to the floor, completely unable to walk. He described the pain as excruciating. In that one terrifying moment, Bill Anderson's world shrank from the biggest stages in Nashville to the floor of his bedroom. The man who stood before thousands was now grounded and in agony. The immediate result was a string of cancellations, each one a blow to a man whose entire career was built on showing up. A songwriting session with his friend T. Graham Brown was called off. Then came the one that cut the deepest. His scheduled performance at the Grand Ole Opry for Saturday, August 16th, was cancelled. For the longest-serving member in Opry history, not being there was a profound break from a lifetime of tradition. The final cancellation was an appearance for the iconic Nashville radio station WSM at the State Fair. 3 commitments, all erased, in an instant. The professional fallout was one thing, but the personal toll was immense. In a letter to his fans, he laid it bare. "If you know me, you know how much it bothers me to go back on any commitment I may have made." This was the voice of a man whose word is his bond. The physical pain was terrible, but the pain of letting people down was a special kind of agony. For an 87-year-old, a serious fall and leg injury isn't a small thing, and the country music world held its breath, wondering just how bad it was. In the days that followed, the country community waited for news. The silence was finally broken when Bill himself reached out to his fans with a heartfelt letter on his website. He kicked it off by thanking everyone for the wave of love and prayers. "I appreciate your concern," he wrote, "but I'm here to let you know I'm doing fine." He then confirmed the freak accident, the fall, and the pain that left him unable to walk. His recovery plan was simple but tough: rest, a ton of ice packs, and pain medication. No dramatic surgeries, just the slow, hard work of healing. He ended his note with trademark optimism, saying he was feeling much better and hoped, "This will all be behind me shortly. Thanks for your thoughts and prayers, and most of all, for caring." This message showed that while his body took a hit, his spirit was as strong as ever. This wasn't the first time he'd faced a challenge, and his resilience is legendary. The timing of the accident also cast a new, poignant light on his recent music. In September 2024, Anderson released an EP titled Forevermore. One song in particular, the last one I'll forget, felt eerily relevant. In it, he sings from the perspective of a man in his final years, worried about losing his senses, but promising that his love for his partner will be the last thing to fade. He said he wrote it by visualizing myself as a man in his final years, making sure he clearly communicated his everlasting and undying love. Now, as he was actually recovering from a moment of physical vulnerability, those lyrics hit differently. His fight to get back on his feet became a source of inspiration. Messages of support flooded social media, as fans and fellow artists shared their favorite Bill Anderson songs and memories. The question wasn't if he had the will to return, but how long the road to recovery would be. The path back to the Opry stage now looked like a journey to be taken one determined step at a time. Bill Anderson's freak accident is a stark reminder that even our legends are human. A career spanning 7 decades, a record-breaking tenure at the Grand Ole Opry, a songbook woven into the fabric of American culture. None of it could stop a single, unlucky misstep in the dark. His absence from the Opry stage, even for a weekend, left a hole in the heart of country music where that familiar, comforting whisper should have been. But this isn't just a story of a fall. It's a story of resilience. Faced with a painful injury that could have easily sidelined a lesser person, Bill Anderson's response was all class, gratitude, and a clear determination to get back. His first thoughts weren't about his own pain, but about his regret for missing his commitments and his thankfulness for the incredible wave of support. This incident may have hit pause on his performances, but it's far from the final curtain. The spirit of Bill Anderson is as unbroken as the circle at the Grand Ole Opry. As he continues to recover, the music world is waiting and watching, not with pity, but with hopeful anticipation for the day when its longest-serving member walks back into that hallowed circle and the whisper returns to its rightful home. What's your favorite Bill Anderson song or memory? Whether it's one of his own hits or a song he wrote for another legend, share it in the comments below. Your stories are a tribute to his incredible legacy. And for more stories about the titans of country music, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.